I think that eventually a deal will be worked out, it's just somebody up there hasn't hit the right button. I think that the approach by contacting the governor's office was in the right direction, I think, but that's where you need to follow up. You know, sometimes, something slipped by staff up there and, maybe the right person isn't aware of it. And you know how that works, and I know you've driven up there, you've met with them, and, I think that, you know, that you need to go back, you know, and deal directly with the governor's office and ask what the holdup is here.
I can certainly do that. The other thing is this, the, state is looking for money.
Well, that's not our motivation, no, our motivation is,
I mean,
I know, I mean, I understand that, but in an argument or a discussion with them, I don't know that we should even say that, you know, look, here's what we'd like to do, we're trying our best, you know, and to prepare for the future, and here's our deal, and here's our money, here's our deal and our commitment, please let it, you know, let us in on what your thoughts are. And I think, you know, like, that's where you got to when you originally wrote the letter to the, addressed it to the governor. I think that's where, you know, the direction I would go back and continue to do so. Talking with people under them, somewhere the communication is failing between Little Okeechobee County and somebody telling us, yeah, let's do that.
well, I don't.
How much money are they sitting on the bars now, total?
190,000.
168,000, and we gave them some more. I just think that you need to pursue the, because that was originally why the cabinet, it never even made it to the meeting, right?
The governor's office requested that item to be.
Somebody
pulled
had
from
got right,
the-
it was pulled from the agenda.
That's correct.
In the cabinet meeting.
That's correct.
So for some reason or other, somebody there has an issue, and I don't know if it's, you know, the people in
Don't worry about
DEP.
it. I mean, I can do whatever this board wants me to
No,
do.
I mean, that's
My
just
date
my
is-
thought. Because that's where it came from when it was pulled from it was on the agenda,
The
to
governor's
go
office
for the
asked it to be
cabinet
pulled.
meeting.
Yes,
It was pulled from the agenda that morning.
that morning.
So somebody right there, there's a
that afternoon.
failure of communication to address an issue in Okeechobee County that, you know, the utility authority there is trying to buy a piece of property the state owns, that our $20+ million water or treatment plant happens to sit on.
I can send a follow-up. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to take.
Well, I
a
think
temperature
I'd
on the
asked
board
you
on it.
about that a couple of weeks ago, and I think that's the direct, you know, just the direct approach to, you know, please help us here. Give us some direction. And then
I'm
after you do,
satisfied with a 22-year lease, so I'm listening.
but then after you do that, then, you know, should you not get any response, you know, maybe it's something that we just have to pull in and retry, you know, try again later. But right now, I think that, you know, the governor's office needs to be aware that, you know, what our commitment is and what we've agreed to, and somewhere in there, the communication's failed.
There's a breakdown somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere it's failed.
And I'm
I mean,
surprised that nothing has come from the governor's office. That's where the
Well,
letter.
I've asked you 2 or 3 times, have you heard from him? You said no. And to me, that seems strange, that somebody wouldn't respond, whether it was like, you know, shove it, or, you know, good luck, see you later, or whatever. But I think that, you know, a letter of follow-up and, you know,
If there's no
express
objection-
urgency
If
in
there's no
follow.
objection, I will do that,
Yeah.
and I'll see if I have something to tell you at the April meeting.
Well,
The last item,
good meet. Yes.
the last item, we'll move on. The last item is a new item. I sent you all, let me back up. For some time now, we've been talking to the Flores people, Mr. Flores, who owns the piece of property that adjoins the wastewater treatment plant, the water treatment plant down on the lake. Matter of fact, we started this, what, 2 or 3 years ago, John. The price was enormous when we initially began talking about this. There've been some things that have occurred. We got an appraisal of this property a year ago. The appraised value came in at $188,000. He wasn't interested in dealing with us at that time, we tried. Since then, we began negotiations again just recently, and he has finally agreed that he would accept the $188,000 purchase price for that property. With two or three things. One, he'd like to continue operations there for a period up to 5 years. Well, if it was turnkey, we'd have to do something about getting all that inventory out of there if we were to buy it, so that can be a plus. The second thing he was wanting was, the ability to remove 3 sheds that are on the property, and they are movable. There are 2 of them metal, I think they're all 3 metal sheds. One is a storage building, the other 2 are metal sheds. I would want, if that occurred, him to be responsible for all upkeep and all utilities and all other costs in connection with the operation of the property, which he agreed to do. Plus, and the most important thing would be the maintenance of the liability insurance on the premises if he's gonna continue operations there, which he agreed to do. The last thing was, he was wanting if the deal went through, he was wanting the utility authority to pay the cost of the title insurance and the stamps and the cost of closing. There still would be a proration of the taxes, but I know there's a mortgage on the property that would be paid out of his proceeds. So you see the deal the way I put it together. He has signed it. As a matter of fact, he signed it over the weekend. Delivered it, this got delivered to my office sometime yesterday. So you're seeing this fresh off of the press. I emailed it to you all last night to look at. John, I apologize to you because I didn't have his good address. So this is the first time he's seen that. John and I are putting that to you for consideration. It's been a long time coming. John can tell you his concerns about why he thinks the OUA should acquire that piece of property.
Certainly you can look at the attached photos at your place settings this morning. Clearly there is the intent that our groundwater storage tank that's located on the front piece of the property, it's 1 million gallons of water that's stored there in the larger tank, stacks up about 18 feet of water, thereabouts, 14 feet of water. It's within 40 feet, 45 feet of his structure, living structure. Clearly, there's some liability issues there, that if there is a catastrophic failure of the tank, the damage that could be done, loss of life or damage. Certainly from the standpoint of long-term arrangements, should we ever have to expand the treatment capacity of that plant, the normal progression would be to expand to the west, which is where his property would be located. So clearly there are some long-term interests to be looked at, and certainly there are the liabilities that we could address if we were to own that property.
I think without rehashing the reason for purchasing this property, I think that we should probably move ahead with it as a board, go ahead and purchase this, because like I said, it has been discussion a long time, and the value to the utility authority is long-term, and in some instances, short-term, should we have a catastrophe, as you discussed. And I'm not trying to, mess with your profession there, Tom, but there were several questions I had, and I don't have a problem with any part of the first part of the contract purchase and things of that nature, but he calls that his residence, right? I mean, he homesteads that?
I think, look at the assessment. Yes, well, it shows an exemption of 25.
Okay, then before we go any further, you might make a note there to address the issue. If we purchase this, which I'm all in favor of, and he's going to be responsible for the taxes. That's the way the contract reads.
He would be responsible for all the operational expenses
And
taxes, I believe.
Okay, the only thing you need to do is address that issue about the homestead exemption.
Well, he couldn't get it.
I know it, so his taxes are going to be greater than what he had anticipated, is my point. Plus, he has agriculture exemption there too, right?
I would say yes.
Okay, my point is that maybe you need to, before it becomes an issue when the tax bill comes due, that as the OUA that it could be a greater tax bill because we wouldn't be able to request.
Or there may be no tax.
I'm just saying,
Okay. I mean,
that
that's
issue
both
needs
ways.
to be addressed. The
Okay.
exemption for agriculture, which is a reduction in the value because it is a bona fide agriculture operation, Greenville, and the homestead exemption that if he is, qualified to get now.
You mean as an explanation, because in the contract, I've got him paying the tax.
Exactly, but we don't want him, we don't want that to change because of ownership change for those two exemptions. So then he comes back and says, wow, my taxes last year were only $561, now they're $8,320.
But he has no mortgage payment either.
I understand that, I'm just saying that, so that that would be something that he couldn't come back to something.
I'd like to see it tabled until us new members who got this last night can ask some questions and talk to John and look at this. And I don't think a month would hurt us.
Okay.
I mean, we got it last night, it's not on the agenda. Definitely like to, personally, I would like to look at it. John and Jeff, we're not privy to the conversations from however long y'all been working on this. I'd really like to have a chance to digest it and look at it.
Well, if you don't mind, let me finish what I'm saying on the contract, and then we can decide what you want to do with that. And then there's, you say in the contract that the seller can use the property for the continuation of his business. What if there's no out there? What if we needed it before then? I'm just saying that there should be some language in there that should we need it for some unforeseen reason before a 5-year period is up and ask him to vacate, how are you gonna address that?
Okay. That was an incentive to get.
I understand all that, and I know where you're coming from, but
Okay.
I don't wanna deal with this 2 years from now when it's immediate necessity that we take some of that property and expand those ponds to settle out in, or whatever, it doesn't specify, I mean, it just says continue doing what he's doing, but I think you should define what he's doing, landscape, sales and installation service or whatever it is. I think a contract should specify exactly what he can use it for, not just continue what he's doing. This is what you can do there. Right? And like I said, if for some unrun reason that we had to expand those settlement ponds or whatever in the back and needed to dig across there, even though you could still use the front part, but we had to expand those back ponds, how will we tell him, hey, we need 1.3 acres back here to dig this pond while we're pumping this one down and cleaning out the sediment. And the other thing, you said in the contract, it says that he's a single man. You didn't address anything about heirs or, what happens if this single man becomes incapacitated or should die?
I've got a binding contract.
No, I'm not talking about whether we can buy. Do they get to keep operating their?
No.
Okay, but it doesn't specify that in there, so that it would not, that our graciousness to allow him to use it does not continue down through,
I'm with
the
you.
next generation or any heirs that, Mr. Flores has to operate that. So at that time, we would, at his death or, inability to operate that, We
should
would,
terminate.
right,
I agree. I agree.
that part of the contract
This is
becomes
personal.
void.
again.
Right, yeah, it's just for you, Mr. Flores,
Personal
not,
again.
not you and your children or an heir or somebody else, right?
Correct, okay.
That was the only things I had in the contract there. Oh, and you did have a, couple typos, but I guess you'll catch those.
Yeah.
That was it. Now, Mr. Clay, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
Well,
but I
I
just
thought
wanted
you
to-
were done.
I am done now.
How much property do we own down there total?
Our parcel is, I believe, almost 11 acres, 10 something acres.
Then what do we own to the west of it?
To the west of it, several parcels over.
Yes.
We have, what is termed the 66 acres,
Right.
where we have a pond.
Okay, that would be this one.
It's something less than that now, because I think we gave up about an acre to the power site.
Okay.
And then we own the parcel in front of that 66 acres, used to be, Sammy Farrell's.
And right now, we pump from our facility over to this pond? Is
Yes,
that the
sir.
way I understood that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And again, just background, when we bought the 66 acres, it was in total, the owner wanted to sell it. We originally just tried to buy some acreage up front, and it was all or nothing, so we ended up having to get all those, that old parcel.
What do you see for expansion? That's something that we might have to do in the immediate future at the water treatment facilities?
By immediate future, you're talking 5 or 10 years?
5 years?
I don't see us having to expand the treatment plant within 5 years. Just to put in perspective, the DEP rated capacity of that plant is 5 million gallons a day, and we push a little over 2 million gallons a day, probably, on a busy day.
What are we pulling out of the pump, the wells?
Anywhere from 500,000 to say 700,000 gallons a day. And of course, we're still waiting on a consumptive use permit that we should get sometime.
Again, I'd like to have time to look at this and digest it, and I don't know if I'm speaking for the other fresh board members here, but I'd really like to push it back for a month. I don't think it'll hurt anything if we do, and Mr. Hoover's give Tom a list of things he'd like to see done. So I'd like to make a motion that we table this till the next meeting.
We have a second.
I'll second that one.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh.
All those opposed?
I'm opposed to it. Motion. Call for a vote. I just was the motion is to
To table it to next month?
Right.
the purchase.
Right.
And we were in discussion, and I had a question.
Okay.
So, if you'll hold on there.
Go right ahead, sir.
John, when we talked about a while back, the possibility of having to rebuild that tank down there and some failures in the storage tank that were gonna have to be addressed and things of that nature.
That is correct.
Okay.
There are 2 storage tanks there.
Right.
One, the 500,000 gallon tank was originally manufactured, constructed in the 20s, I'm
Right,
assuming,
yeah.
or the original facility. And I think it's late 70s, a 1 million gallon ground storage tank was wrapped around that. Both tanks have exhibited some cracking and failures in the past, and we have to get them inspected every few years.